What you're looking at is a very thick book here. It's the Llewellyn's Complete Book of Ceremonial Magic. And I might add, it's the award-winning Complete Book of Ceremonial Magic. And a comprehensive guide to the Western mystery tradition. Now, it's one of a series of books that the good folks at Llewellyn offer, but it's one that I've had, I've had interest in, and I've had involvement in, together with my good friend Dr. David Shoemaker. We helped edit this and helped curate it, and quite proud of it, actually. And I talked about it when it first came out, just less than 2 years ago. And I want to talk about it again today. Actually, it is 11 books and a wonderful magical epilogue. But it's 11 books. Well, here they are. Book 1 is Foundations of Western Magic by Sam Webster. A survey of the philosophical, religious, and cultural precursors of the Western ceremonial magic traditions. Book 2, Kabbalah, by Anita Kraft and Randall Bauer. It's an exploration of the Hebrew and Hermetic Kabbalistic traditions, whose doctrines and sets heavily influenced ceremonial magic as we know it. Are you getting the idea that this is a desert island book? Book 3, Planetary Magic by David Rankin. A review of the ways in which symbols and energies of the 7 classical planets may be employed in magic ritual. Book 4, Alchemy by Dennis William Houck. An exploration of the processes of alchemical transformation that are embedded implicitly or explicitly in much of the Western magical tradition. Book 5, Demonology and Spirit Evocation by Dr. Stephen Skinner. A review of the traditions and procedures involved in the evocation of demons or spirits. Book 6, The Magic of Abramelin by Marcus Katz, whose wonderful book, After the Angel, I highly recommend. A thorough presentation of one of the most important works of theurgy in the ceremonial magic tradition, originating in the medieval grimoire of Abramelin. Book 7, Enochian Magic and Mysticism by Aaron Leitch. Now, I must apologize to Aaron because I've never been properly instructed how to pronounce his last name. So I've always said it's Lish, Leitch. But please, I'm sure you'll correct me. Well, anyway, he writes on Enochian magic and mysticism expertly, an exploration of the Enochian magic system of John Dee and Edward Kelly, a growing subfield of ceremonial magic since the Renaissance. Book 8, The Golden Dawn, by Chick Cicero and Sandra Tabitha Cicero. A discussion of the work of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, a British magical order whose structure and teachings have a seminal and inescapable influence on all subsequent ceremonial magical traditions. Book 9, Thelema and Aleister Crowley by Dr. David Shoemaker. An exploration of the work of one of the most notorious, innovative, and influential figures in modern magic, including a review of Crowley's broader cultural impact on the 20th and 21st centuries. Book 10, Polytheistic Ceremonial Magick by John Michael Greer. An exploration of pagan and other polytheistic traditions as they intersect with ceremonial magic, ritual, and doctrine. Book 11, Magician's Tables by David Allen Hulse. An annotated compendium of symbolic correspondences for practicing ceremonial magicians. And the epilogue, The Future of Ceremonial Magic by Brandy Williams, wherein the narrator sets out to explore the future, confronts despair, and emerges with hope. Now, this book has, besides these 10 books in epilogue, it contains 133 illustrations. It has 65 tables. And as many of you all could probably recognize, it has many of the major stars in the magical firmament of modern magic and literature. And it's out. It was out in hardbound, paperback, and I don't know if there's any hardbounds left, okay. But I thought I would, after introducing it like that, I would read my brief introduction. Editor's introduction. I start with 2 quotes for epigrams. Magic is not something you do. Magic is something you are. By Donald Michael Craig. Second epigram. Magic is the science and art of causing change to occur in conformity with will. Aleister Crowley. I was an 18-year-old atheist when my passion for all things magical and mystical was born out of a psychedelically triggered epiphany of self-realization. In a timeless slit of eternity, I saw in blinding technicolor certainty that all things in the cosmos, light, time, space, energy, matter, motion, and my own self, were merely cascading fractals of a supreme and awesome singularity of consciousness. Furthermore, I giddily surrendered to the most self-evident of self-evident truths, that this supreme singularity of consciousness was God and myself. In the days and weeks that followed that curious awakening, I combed the stacks of my college library for books on Zen, yoga, and other varieties of Eastern mysticism, hoping to find in classical literature other examples and parallels to my chemically induced experience. I soon found the works of Alan Watts, Paramahansa Yogananda, and a wide selection of other material to capture my attention. My timing for such a quest could not have been more culturally synchronistic. The pop world of the mid-1960s viewed such esoteric studies and practices as being where it's at, hip, socially aware, sexy. Oh, I was going to look so cool losing my ego. For the next 10 years or so, I made a real effort to become a good yogi. I truly don't regret a moment of mantra chanting, fasting, and pranayama. But eventually I came to the realization that I was fundamentally hardwired differently than the Eastern mystic I was trying to emulate. I was objective rather than subjective, active rather than passive. I began to seek out some sort of Western system, a Western system of consciousness expansion and self-transformation. What I eventually found was the Kabbalah. And 6,000 years of philosophies, spiritual practices, arts, sciences, and mythology that lie at the heart of Western philosophy and religion. Indeed, it forms the foundation of Western civilization itself. I found magic. Even under the best of circumstances, ceremonial magic is an awkward and difficult study, especially at the beginning. There is no such thing as Magic 101. It seems that wherever one chooses to begin, one should already be familiar with or have mastery of a half a dozen obscure and esoteric subjects about which one is woefully uneducated. Fledgling magicians are forced to dive into the deep side of the pool and sink or swim. Looking back, I'm not sure why I didn't drown in the murky waters of the magical swimming pool. Perhaps I was too lazy to get out of the water. One thing's for certain. At the beginning of my magical career, things would have gone dramatically smoother if I had a textbook like the complete book of ceremonial magic. A single volume I could turn to get a primary esoteric education in the most important subjects I needed to learn in order to properly prepare myself for postgraduate work. Such a tool would have shaved years off of my magical learning curve. I admit I'm the laziest man in the world, and even though I've written a number of books and songs and have been involved in one way or another in numerous other publishing efforts, each time a project is presented to me, I have to be dragged kicking and screaming into the process. When my friends at Llewellyn approached me about a massive project called the Complete Book of Ceremonial Magick, my initial response was, "It sounds like too much work." They thought I was joking. When pressed why I was reluctant to come on board, I responded by saying something like this. It would mean first trying to contact a score of the most celebrated magical scholars and practitioners in the world and convince them to drop whatever it is they're doing and write the equivalent of a small masterpiece of a book that would encapsulate and illuminate the essence of an essential aspect of the science and art of ceremonial magic. Even if we could get these cloistered esoteric superstars to agree they are all geniuses. Do you know how hard it can be to work with one genius? Can you imagine trying to work with a couple dozen geniuses at once? This thing will probably drag on for years as we gather up and edit. It sounds like too much work. Well, obviously I changed my mind. The project's profound in historical potential and in my own sense of responsibility to further generations won out over my inherent slothful nature. Much to my surprise, I found it far easier than I expected to personally contact and secure the goodwill and participation of the brightest stars of the 21st century's magical firmament. Each was remarkably gracious and enthusiastic. Furthermore, the gods smiled and inspired each of our contributors to create for us many masterpieces, some of the best work of their careers. True examples of magical genius. And that is the real magic of the complete book of Ceremonial Magick. I would especially like to draw the reader's attention to the epilogue of this work, The Future of Ceremonial Magick by Brandy Williams. It'll be apparent to the reader that the format Brandy is offering is different from that of the other sections. It's a true prophetic document and a breathtaking example of the visionary inner eye of a true magician. The reader is urged to read it in a meditative state. And a special thanks. As I've confessed, I'm the laziest man in the world. The editorial labor necessary for a work of this scope is monumental and far beyond my skill or capacity to shoulder alone. This work would never have seen the light of day without the Herculean efforts of my friend and co-editor, Dr. David Shoemaker, who is the author of Book 9 of this work. Thank you, Dr. Shoemaker, and let's hope our next project is a little easier. And that's my brief little introduction to, in my opinion, one of the most remarkable magical texts of the 21st century. Literally an encyclopedia of all the things you need to know before you can start to learn the things you know about ceremonial magic. And so that's it for today. We'll see you tomorrow. Continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. And if you possibly can and don't have it already, try to get yourself a copy of the book, the complete book of Ceremonial Magick. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.